The drummer from one of the biggest rock bands on the planet scores a show about a retired spy, and it turns out his own father was a founding member of the CIA. When The Equalizer premiered on CBS on September 18, 1985, British actor Edward Woodward stood into the role of Robert McCall, opposite Robert Lansing, Keith Sarabaka, and a rotating gallery of guest stars who would go on to become some of the biggest names in Hollywood. But behind the trench coat and the Jaguar, this show was hiding secrets, feuds, and a health crisis that nearly ended it all. Stories like the ones we dig up on Mystery Crunch every week. Here are 15 of them, counting down to the one that still hurts to talk about. Number 15, George Costanza's dad, named the Equalizer. In the pilot episode, a character named Brahms gives Robert McCall his famous nickname. The actor playing Brahms, Jerry Stiller years before he'd become a household name as Frank Costanza on Seinfeld. Stiller shows up, helps crack a computer code, casually drops the name Equalizer, and disappears from the series entirely. He hands a show its entire identity in a single scene, then walks away. And speaking of familiar faces in unexpected places, the Karate Kid's villain played McCall's son. William Zabka had just finished playing Johnny Lawrence, the bleach blonde bully of the Karate Kid, in 1984. 1 year later, he's cast as Scott McCall, the estranged, emotionally conflicted son of a retired spy. It's about as far from crane kicking on a beach as you can get. Scott starts out angry at his absent father, then slowly gets drawn into McCall's dangerous world, which terrifies both of his parents. Decades later, Zabka would become beloved again as the older, more sympathetic Johnny Lawrence on Cobra Kai. But the casting surprises weren't just in front of the camera. Number 13, McCall's Jaguar was a TV first. Robert McCall drives a sleek black Jaguar XJ6 through the streets of Manhattan, and that car wasn't just a prop. The Equalizer was reportedly the first American television series in which Jaguar cars contracted directly with a production company to feature its vehicles for promotional purposes. That deal meant a fresh, current-year Jaguar appeared every season. In the pilot, it's a 1985 Series 3 Vanden Plas. By the final season, it's a newer XJ40 model. The car became so iconic that fans still associate the brand with the character today. Now, if the car set the tone for the show, wait until you hear what set the sound. Number 12, the theme song launched a legendary scoring career. That pulsing, synth-driven theme you hear over the opening credits, the track called Busy Equalizing, was composed by Stewart Copeland, the drummer of The Police. The Equalizer was Copeland's very first television theme composition, and it opened the floodgates. He went on to score 51 of the show's 88 episodes and released an album called The Equalizer and Other Cliffhangers. After the show, he scored Wall Street, the Spyro the Dragon video games, and dozens of other projects. One TV theme turned a rock star into one of Hollywood's most prolific composers. And the New York setting didn't just give the show atmosphere, it gave it something else entirely. Number 11, The Show, was a Broadway casting pipeline. The Equalizer filmed entirely on location in New York City, and that proximity to Broadway turned it into one of the most stacked guest star showcases on television. Stage actors appearing between performances would take roles on the show, including Christine Baranski, Amanda Plummer, and Tammy Grimes Plummer's real-life mother. The gritty, rain-soaked Manhattan streets gave the series a cinematic texture that most network shows of the era couldn't touch, and the caliber of theatrical talent elevated even the weaker scripts. It was the rare network drama that felt like it belonged on the big screen. But the stage talent was only part of the story, because behind the scenes, the studio had other ideas for the show's future. Number 10, Universal tried to force a Magnum PI crossover. Universal Studios, which produced The Equalizer, wanted a crossover episode with Magnum PI. The problem was obvious to everyone on the Equalizer team. McCall operates in a dark, morally ambiguous world of espionage, violence, and psychological warfare. Magnum solves cases in a Hawaiian shirt. Executive producer Coleman Luck later explained in the Story of the Equalizer DVD featurette that the crew objected strenuously, arguing that the tonal mismatch would undermine both shows. Universal pushed ahead anyway and ordered a script. The crossover was never filmed, but the script didn't go to waste. It was reworked and eventually aired as the Season 2 episode, Beyond Control, with all traces of Tom Selleck's character scrubbed out. The DNA of that forced marriage, though, lives on in one of the series' more unusual hours. And while the network was trying to tinker with the formula, the cast was becoming a family affair. Number 9. The Woodward family took over the show. Edward Woodward didn't just star in The Equalizer, he brought his family along. His second wife, actress Michelle Dautrice, appeared as the central character in the Season 2 episode Heartstrings. Her father, veteran character actor Roy Dautrice, guest starred in the Season 4 episode Trial by Ordeal. And Woodward's own son, Tim Woodward, played Robert McCall's father in a flashback scene in Prisoners of Conscience, also in Season 4. That means 3 generations of one real-life acting dynasty appeared across the same show, playing characters connected to the same fictional family tree. It's a remarkable piece of television genealogy that rarely gets mentioned, and it speaks to just how personal this project became for Woodward over its 4-year run. Speaking of connections that bridge decades, number 8, a Season 1 guest star, ended up in all 3 Equalizer films. In 1985, a young actress named Melissa Leo guest starred in the 3rd episode of Season 1, The Defector, playing the daughter of a former Soviet agent who enlists McCall's help to defect to the United States. It was an early television role for Leo, who was still years away from wider recognition. Nearly 3 decades later, she was cast as Susan Plummer in the 2014 Denzel Washington film The Equalizer, a role she reprised in The Equalizer 2 in 2018. By then, Leo had already won an Academy Award for The Fighter in 2010. She is the only performer to have appeared in both the original television series and the film franchise, a thread connecting 1985 to 2018 across an entirely different version of the same character's world. She passed away in 2024, but her link to the Equalizer universe remains one of its most quietly remarkable footnotes. The star of the original show, meanwhile, was racking up his own kind of record. Number 7. 5 Emmy nominations, 0 wins across only 4 seasons. Edward Woodward was nominated for the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series 5 consecutive years from 1986 through 1990. The show only aired for 4 seasons, ending in the spring of 1989. So how did he get a 5th nomination? CBS burned off the final 2 episodes in August 1989, making Woodward eligible for the 1989-1990 award season. He never won. Each year, he lost to actors on longer-running, more mainstream hits. The Golden Globes were kinder. Woodward won Best Actor in a Television Drama in 1987. But the Emmy snub remains one of those running injustices that fans of the show still bring up, especially considering the physical and emotional toll the role took on him, a toll that would soon become impossible to hide. And the fact that the show's composer had his own secret connection to the spy world only makes the whole thing strange. Number 6. The composer's father was a real CIA founding member. Stewart Copeland didn't just bring musical genius to The Equalizer, he brought an accidental pedigree. Copeland's father, Miles Copeland Jr., was an American intelligence officer who served in the OSS during World War II and went on to become a founding member of the Central Intelligence Agency. His mother, Lorraine Adey, was a veteran of the British Special Operations Executive. Stewart grew up in Cairo and Beirut as his father carried out CIA assignments across the Middle East. So when Copeland sat down to score a show about a disillusioned former intelligence agent atoning for his shadowy past, he wasn't drawing purely from imagination. He'd grown up inside that world. The moody, propulsive, slightly paranoid sound he created for The Equalizer carries a texture that generic TV scoring never could, and now you know why. It wasn't just art imitating life. It was a man scoring his own childhood from behind a drum kit and a synthesizer. Now, if you thought the behind-the-scenes story was already dramatic, you haven't heard the worst of it. Number 5. The show was renewed for Season 5, then killed by murder, she wrote. Here's how a hit show dies for reasons that have nothing to do with its own ratings. At the end of Season 4, CBS renewed The Equalizer for a 5th season. Keith Sarabajka, who played fan favorite Mickey Kostmayer, turned down a role on the NBC series Midnight Caller because he believed the show was coming back. Then a corporate dispute erupted between CBS and Universal Studios over the renewal of another Universal-produced series, Murder, She Wrote. When that negotiation fell apart, Universal pulled The Equalizer off the table as part of the fallout. The show was dead, not because audiences stopped watching, not because the stories ran dry, but because of a business fight over a completely different program. A massive campaign of public support couldn't convince CBS to reverse the decision. Zabka, meanwhile, had already passed on his backup plan. One network feud erased 2 careers' worth of momentum in a single stroke. And the show's sudden death was painful, but it pales next to what had happened to the star 2 years earlier. Number 4. A guest star roster that reads like a future Oscar ballot. Before they were famous, they were on The Equalizer. The show's New York filming schedule and dark, actor-friendly scripts attracted an astonishing roster of performers who would go on to major careers. Lawrence Fishburne, William H. Macy, Tony Shalhoub, Chris Cooper, Ving Rhames, Cynthia Nixon, Patricia Clarkson, Oliver Platt, Laura San Giacomo, David Strathairn, Charles S. Dutton, Giancarlo Esposito, and Michael Rooker all appeared in guest roles during the show's 4-season run. Robert Mitchum and Telly Savalas, already legends by the mid-1980s, also showed up. The show also featured early appearances by Jennifer Grey, Lori Loughlin, and the singing duo Ashford and Simpson. Taken together, it's one of the most quietly stacked guest rosters in television history, a show that functioned as an unofficial audition reel for the next 2 decades of American film and television. The fact that so many future stars passed through its doors says something about how seriously working actors took the material, even when the ratings started to slip. But the most dramatic story in the entire run of The Equalizer isn't about guest stars or network politics. It's about the man at the center of it all. Number 3. Robert Mitchum had to step in when the star nearly died. In the summer of 1987, between seasons 2 and 3, Edward Woodward suffered a massive heart attack. He was a heavy smoker, and the production schedule on The Equalizer was grueling. Woodward appeared in virtually every scene of every episode. The producers needed a solution fast. They brought in Hollywood legend Robert Mitchum to play Richard Dyson, an old friend of McCall's, for the 2-part episode Mission: McCall. In the story, McCall is shot by a KGB bullet and goes missing, giving Woodward time to rest while his character recovers on screen. Actor Richard Jordan was also brought in as Harley Gage, a cynical former operative, and stayed for 10 additional episodes. Woodward eventually returned to full duties and carried the show through its 4th and final season, but the heart attack changed the series. The physically demanding action sequences were scaled back, and the show pivoted toward more socially conscious storylines, including a gutting episode about a young boy with AIDS being terrorized by his neighbors. It was still The Equalizer, but it was now the work of a man who knew his own body had limits. And what happened to Woodward after the show ended is the story that makes this whole list land differently. Number 2, the show that almost became a Magnum PI spin-off, also launched a billion-dollar franchise. For years after its 1989 cancellation, The Equalizer lived on mainly in reruns on USA Network, A&E, and eventually the Hallmark Channel, building a quiet but fiercely loyal cult following. Then, in December 2011, Denzel Washington was announced as the star of a film adaptation. Director Antoine Fuqua, who had directed Washington to an Oscar in Training Day, signed on in 2013. The first film grossed $192 million worldwide against a $55 million budget. 2 sequels followed: The Equalizer 2 in 2018 and The Equalizer 3 in 2023, making Washington's McCall one of the most successful action franchises of the 2010s and 2020s. Meanwhile, CBS launched a rebooted series starring Queen Latifah in 2021, which premiered after Super Bowl LV and ran for 5 full seasons. Co-creator Michael Sloan also wrote a series of novels, continuing the original storyline. From a cult show that was canceled over a contract dispute, The Equalizer became a sprawling multimedia franchise spanning 4 decades, 3 films, 2 TV series, and multiple novels. Edward Woodward's Robert McCall planted a seed that's still growing. But the last fact isn't about the franchise, it's about the man. Number 1. Edward Woodward said he regretted making The Equalizer. Edward Woodward won a Golden Globe for The Equalizer. He was nominated for 5 consecutive Emmys. He became a star in America after decades of acclaimed work in Britain on the stage, as the lead of the spy series Callan from 1967 to 1972, and as Sergeant Howie in the 1973 cult horror classic The Wicker Man. But according to the BBC, Woodward later said he regretted making the show because of the devastating toll it took on his health. The massive heart attack in 1987 was only the beginning. He suffered a second heart attack in 1994. He underwent triple bypass surgery in 1996 and finally quit smoking. In 2003, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. His final years included a fall down the stairs at his home that damaged his hip and forced the postponement of a planned stage performance. On November 16, 2009, Edward Woodward died of pneumonia at Royal Cornwall Hospital. He was 79 years old. He is survived by 4 children, including his son Tim, who had played McCall's father on the show. The role that made him an international icon was also, by his own account, the role that broke him. And yet the character he created endures in 3 films, 2 television series, and the memories of everyone who watched a quiet, dangerous man in a black Jaguar try to make the world a little more fair. It wasn't just an 80s action show. It was a character study dressed in a trench coat, a story about guilt, redemption, and whether one person can tip the scales. Edward Woodward gave everything he had to that role, and it shows in every frame. Subscribe to Mystery Crunch. We've got plenty more stories like this one.